Welcome to American Education FM, everybody. I'm Dr. Sean Brooks. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Okay, I'm going to start here real quick. This will probably be a shorter episode. I want to mention just a couple of things right off the top here regarding the Upper Arlington School District, which, of course, I covered at the tail end of the last episode. If anybody's ever interested in diving into, again, the behavior and sort of the professional, quote-unquote, makeup of a school district, and, of course, you want to see any similarities or differences from one school district to the next across an entire nation, all you have to do, again, is tap into any of their board meetings. Just watch any of their school board meetings. The vast majority, again, are on YouTube by and large, and you can watch them over there. So what I decided to do is I decided, of course, to get on Upper Arlington and, of course, Upper Arlington, Ohio's YouTube channel over there, and I decided to watch two of their board meetings. I watched one board meeting in October and then the one from this month on the 14th, and it appears that they typically have their board meetings on the 14th. The child who killed himself in that particular case, he did so, I believe, on the 23rd of September. So they had already had their September meeting, if they had one, which they should have. What's interesting, of course, is that that particular meeting, the one that took place on the 14th, has been deleted from their YouTube channel. Seems a bit strange, but it's been deleted nonetheless. When I watched the October meeting, of course, which transpired again approximately a month later, or at least a few weeks later, I noticed something again that is very indicative of an environment that does not know what it is doing. First of all, I would say this, and this specifically again pertains to the structure of the actual meeting. The easiest way and the most technologically sound way to conduct a school board meeting is to live stream it on YouTube. That's really the easiest way to do it. A lot of these school board meetings, though, they won't do that. They will air it over Zoom, and they'll record it over Zoom, and then they'll upload it to YouTube later on via Zoom. So you're basically using another technological system instead of just using a direct system like YouTube. Now, this sounds boring right now, but trust me, I'm getting to a particular point. During the October meeting, as I watched it from beginning to end, it was your stereotypical brainwashing, we are a cult, we don't do anything wrong school district board meeting. Same nonsense presentations. They pat a bunch of students on the back at the beginning, give them an award from time to time, then they leave the meeting, and then they get into some presentation about how essentially their district is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and we care about all students and this, that, and the other. You have to keep in mind that, again, the October board meeting is happening on the back of a student killing himself. And there's no acknowledgement, nor would there be, that the district would take any responsibility for that. In fact, they double down on all of their mental health, quote-unquote, facilities and or resources, and that they encourage everybody to reach out and whatever. Now, as the board meeting kept going, there was a consistent thread throughout the whole meeting. And what I mean by that is two characteristics that are remarkably unprofessional from a presentation standpoint. Number one, visually speaking, the presentations are garbage. And what I mean by that is, because they're streaming them on Zoom, they make very small in the upper right-hand corner, and if no one believes me, you can go over there on YouTube and just look it up yourself, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Their Zoom stream is in the upper right-hand corner, which has a camera on the board members or on a board member, or when it comes to the public participation portion, it's on the lectern, where the public individual comes up and decides to start speaking. It's literally, again, in the smallest part of the screen, so you can't even see them. You can't see any of their reactions. You can't see what they look like. They're practically invisible by and large, because then they just throw up this huge slideshow that takes up the vast majority of the screen that just says public participation. It's as if they don't want the public to see who is speaking, and it's as if they don't want the public to see the looks on the faces of the board members and or the superintendent or other people who happen to be at the dais, like the treasurer, etc., etc. It seems sneaky to me. At face value, it just seems sneaky. It gets worse. The microphones don't work, hardly at all. During the actual district presentations, when, again, the superintendent or someone else gets up and starts going through a particular slideshow, the microphones will work from time to time, but then they will consistently cut out. And there are huge swaths of dialogue that you just cannot hear. And then when it gets to the public participation portion, you can't hear hardly anything. So here's why I bring this up. It's indicative of a school district that is not paying attention to even the most basic characteristics of how to give a presentation to the public that they are mandated by law to do. They have to have these meetings. They've made policy that allows them to be public for everybody to see, and the way in which they're doing it is remarkably unprofessional, incredibly lazy, and in my opinion, it's sneaky. It gets more specific now. During that particular public presentation of their October meeting, there was only one speaker for the public participation portion, just one, a female. And whoever it is that reads off the names, read her name, and then openly said, and this again would have been a member of the actual district themselves, whether that be the treasurer or a board member or the superintendent or whomever reads the names of the people participating in the public participation portion. They openly said, as the person came up, "Welp," they said, "You're the only speaker, no pressure. Looks like you're the only speaker, no pressure." You have to keep in mind, this is the board meeting after a student in their district shot himself in the head, where there is allegations, and are allegations rather, of a board member bullying this individual or having this individual bullied by others in the school district, whether they be staff members or administration or other students or what have you, to the point where the child killed himself. So when someone says, "Well, looks like there's only one speaker, no pressure," they're immediately talking down to the individual as if the person has no public speaking experience whatsoever. They're speaking to them as if what they're going to say might not be that important. They're talking to them as if, again, whatever they say is inconsequential and doesn't matter. Or like there should be some form of pressure on what it is that they're actually saying because they're the only ones giving a public presentation. It's insulting, for lack of a better phrase, and just in summary, it's insulting. And then she starts to speak. And like I said earlier, the presentation format from a technological standpoint sucks, and you can't even hear her because the microphone's not even working properly. So whatever she said, you literally cannot hear her, which means their IT person is retarded, because you cannot possibly conduct one board meeting the way that they conduct them. Go back and watch it and be like, "Yep, that's a great board meeting. The way that we did that, perfect. It was seamless. It was absolutely perfect, smooth as silk. The presentation went off with a hitch. No one with a brain in their skull would arrive at that conclusion. The other reason that, of course, this bothers me is because this is presentation 101 stuff. I've given so many presentations, I can't even tell you how many. Whether they be in a classroom setting, whether they be in a university setting, whether they be on stages at conferences. I've given too many to count. And I was taught very properly, even by my own father, how to do it, what to do, and what not to do. I would follow him. I've said this before, but I would follow him to conferences when I was younger, even when I was, again, in high school and in college. And I would watch him give presentations, and before he would come to the back of the room where I would always be sitting, and he'd sit next to me, and he'd say, okay, here's what you're going to watch. And when you give a presentation like this, if the time ever comes when you do, you want to make sure that this is working, this is working, this is working, that your microphone is on, that everybody can hear you, that you're moving around the room, et cetera, that, again, you have backups in case something caves in, but that everybody can hear you, see you, and that your presentation that you're showing on the screen is crystal clear, that the font is big enough, et cetera, et cetera. Again, it's all presentation 101 stuff. It's not difficult. But when a school district is purposefully, I would say purposefully, or maybe not, maybe they're just this dumb. It's highly likely they're just this dumb. That their presentation method is as bad as it is, that right there again is indicative of a district that is not paying attention to their surroundings. Under any circumstance, they're not paying attention to the details. Because as we all know, as the saying goes, the devil is in the details. And that's where someone gets killed, is if people aren't paying attention. So again, the presentation was bad. These board meetings are just poorly produced. Their microphones don't work, for God's sakes. It's embarrassing. And this is what? The fifth, sixth largest school district in the entire state of Ohio. Fix your presentations. Live stream them on YouTube. Fix your microphones. Turn up the volume. Don't cut the microphones. They have dialogue and closed caption at the bottom, but that doesn't even catch up, and you can't even read it fast enough in order to understand what the person is saying because the font is too small. It just feels like, again, that this is a school district that is consistently hiding what they're doing. They're sneaky, and they're behaving like they are sneaky. But are they unique in that regard when it comes to American school districts? Of course not. They're all sneaky. They're just sneaky in different ways. And they're incompetent in different ways too, but they're also very sneaky and incompetent in very similar ways as well. I just thought, again, it was remarkably unprofessional, but there again lies the problem. This is an environment that is clearly unprofessional, not paying attention to their surroundings, not learning from the very thing that they're supposed to be doing correctly once a month. It's like, it's not the only thing that the person who runs their IT department is responsible for, but it's a once a month thing. It's the thing you do. So get it right. Fix it. It's like Westerville City Schools in Central Ohio, too. They have massive problems with their presentations. You couldn't hear anything. Their microphones don't work. You have to crank the volume all the way up. Again, it's like reflect on your work and look at what you're producing and then go back and be like, wow, this audio quality sucks, or this is terrible, or I have to, turn up the volume all the way just to be able to hear anything. I mean, they're not learning because they're not observing, because they're not reflecting. And then what are they doing? Of course, they're rationalizing their entire environment and the behavior of their environment. We care about the mental and emotional health and safety of everybody, and that's always going to be our top concern, and blah, 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 blah. It's the same old lines time and time again. So I just wanted to mention that again, because that right there really is indicative of an environment and people within an environment who are not paying attention to the details and have something to hide. The other thing I noticed again, just again with their monotone language and just the way that they sound and their presentations and the poor quality of their presentations, is not just that these aren't the sharpest knives in the drawer, but that they are brainwashed. And when I was watching their board meeting, I really thought to myself, oh my God, they are just another cult. Because it really is cult behavior. They look at one another, they all vote the same. Everybody goes, yes, that's great. We do care about the safety and security of students, and that's our number one concern. And over and over and over again, they sound like, again, full-blown zombies who are just repeating one another all of the time. It's sad. I mean, I pity these people because they're brainwashed and they don't know it. Hence, of course, the effectiveness of brainwashing and the effective nature. And then, of course, you need the brainwashed in those environments to then do the brainwashing unbeknownst to them because they're brainwashed. It's sad. I just can't believe that with all of these red flags that exist all across the nation with every American public-private charter school, and yes, it's the charter and private schools too, that people consistently send their children even after a child killed himself. Now, with that aside for a second, although again, same story, I'll say this. I'm in possession of some information pertaining to this particular case. I am not going to share it right now for rather obvious reasons. There are lawyers involved. I can tell you that I'm familiar with them. I'll leave it at that. And that's about it. But I'm not going to get into the details of what I know thus far. I'll just say again, there are a lot of red flags here. And there's a whole lot of smoke. So in the last episode, I mentioned that I would do an open records request. I did. They, of course, got back to me the way that they do everybody and say, we are in receipt of your request. We will do our best to fulfill the request unless something comes up and blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, I should receive those emails when I receive them, because I asked for the emails of one particular board member from July through Monday, November 17th. And we'll see what happens. See what I find. Now, remember in the last episode, too, I said that the board member, this Nadia Satani, or however the hell you say her name, that she changed her website on Sunday, that she had this statement, basically, again, exonerating herself of any wrongdoing, claiming that the superintendent had cleared her or others of any wrongdoing, that the district wasn't responsible. Same thing with the board members, that they were all like, we weren't responsible for any of this. And then later on, as I was recording the show, I was going to read that statement here on the show because she made it public, and she had deleted it. In fact, she deleted almost everything that was on her actual campaign website, which she has a website for here, which is teamsatani.com. Satiani, however the hell you say it again. I don't care. But either way, she now has, and it's, it's ballsy. It's a bit ballsy. She has a section now where, of course, she's thanking the people who voted for her and re-elected her. But she now on the front cover has a section called Staying Connected, introducing the constituent corner. She says the following: thank you for trusting me to continue serving our schools. As the election winds down and we move forward, my focus remains on the concrete needs of Upper Arlington students and ensuring our community is prepared for the future. To ensure our dialogue is transparent, safe, and constructive, I am launching the Constituent Corner. I believe that if one resident has a question, others likely do too. How many brain cells did you have to put together to figure that out? She goes on with, this brain buster and says, instead of private email chains, I will now be answering questions from verified residents publicly on this site. This ensures everyone has equal access to the same information and allows me to focus my energy on the governance work you elected me to do. How to connect. Number 1, submit. Use the constituent connection line to send me your questions or thoughts. And 2, check the Constituent Corner for regular updates addressing the themes and questions on your mind. Let's keep working to build a healthy, resilient culture so every student can flourish. Every bear forward. Okay. You click on the Constituent Corner and she has again her moment of gratitude where she's thanking people. But you go back to the home page again and you click on the Constituent Connection line and she wants you to again basically type in your name, your home address, your email address, the topic for which you're discussing, and then your message, and then you submit it. And then allegedly she responds, which would imply, based on her description, that everybody can see your name, address, or at the very least, she can. And then, of course, whether or not she actually airs your question on her website and airs her answer on her website would be interesting. I think it's the illusion of quote-unquote transparency. It's the illusion of giving a damn what everybody thinks, because in her particular case, it certainly seems like endless people could just flood her page with all kinds of questions about her alleged involvement in the passing of a child when it came to him being bullied, or something along those lines. Again, the topics that apparently you're allowed to respond to, the first one says district budget, and school funding. Curriculum and academics is the next. Student safety and well-being is the next. Board policies and governance is the next one. Facilities and operations. Community partnership and engagement is the other one. Other board business not on the meeting agenda. And then finally, other board business that is on the agenda of a meeting. If you're unsure about whether it's on the agenda, select this one. Again, this has the potential to blow up right in her face. Why not just receive emails over your district email? Is it because, again, she wants to out particular people? What's the motivation here? I really don't think it has anything to do with transparency. Is it because she wants to use her own website to self-censor and censor herself when she makes a particular answer to a particular question, or even censor the question? It seems like an unnecessary complication that she's adding to the fold here, again, potentially, to be sneaky. Seems strange. Board meetings are pretty good places, again, to address the public. Why not just do that? Why not take email concerns over your district email and then address them in a public board meeting? I don't know. It seems odd to me. But then again, she edited her entire website and deleted an entire comment that she wrote up, exonerating herself of any wrongdoing by even using the word rumors. There are rumors around that the district was somehow involved in the unfortunate death of a child. Well, it seems like an odd thing, again, to write up and put on your website and then delete. It just seems like she's making more work. Again, under the illusion of making it look like, well, I'm the most transparent board member up here. I'm the one who cares the most. I'm the one communicating the most with my so-called constituents. Hence the constituent corner. This board member, in my opinion, doth protest too much, methinks. And yeah, I don't think this is going to work out for her in the slightest. That's just my opinion, but time will tell. Okay. With that aside for a moment, or at least a little while until I receive any updates, and again, if someone in the public who lives in the general area would like to give me a call, I've certainly, again, made my information public to those who may be interested or know more information, and they have no problem speaking about what they know for certain. They're more than welcome to come on the show and discuss it. I'm all for it. So, yeah. Now, with that said, I'm going to stay in education here just because I've spent at least 25 minutes on it thus far, so I'll just keep going. But this right here, again, is another example. This next story is another example of the entire culture and the degradation of the entire so-called profession. Again, it is cult-like, and it feels like a cult, which again is an absolute blessing that I'm no longer in the business, because I come across things like this, and again, I just think to myself, my God, why don't people leave? Well, the reason that they don't leave is because you don't leave a cult either. It's difficult to leave a cult. It becomes, again, habitual. You look around, everybody else is doing it, and then you go, well, I'll just keep doing what they're doing because I don't know anything else. This particular story was from MSN.com, and it was titled the following: Schoolgirl 16 forced to change her name after woke classmates claimed it was racist. Again, this would never make any mainstream media website, or any website for that matter, if the right people in the positions were doing the right thing. But because they aren't, and they're allowing mobs to rule, essentially, well, then the mobs are going to rule. If you give the squeaky wheel the grease every single time, then there's always going to be a victim. It says the following here: a 16-year-old schoolgirl has been forced to change her own name after her classmates claimed it was racist. Her name is Dixie. Dixie from Tennessee told her mother that she wanted to change her name because she was being mocked by other children at school, accusing her of racism, quote unquote, and supporting the Confederacy. The term Dixie came from the song Dixie's Land, which became the South's unofficial anthem in the 19th century. It can also refer to the southern states, which formed the Confederate States of America. In recent years, it's become controversial among some Americans due to its association to the South's pro-slavery past. Well, that's too bad for them. Daniela Remp, Dixie's mother, took to social media to explain how her daughter asked to change her name. The 35-year-old said, quote, "She gets made fun of for it. I said yes, no questions asked." Dixie, whose name was chosen by her father when she was born in 2008, now goes by the name Sky, which was the name her mother wanted to use originally. As well as being branded racist, she told Today.com, quote, "They call me things like Dixie Dust or Dixie Normus, quote unquote. They just give it all sorts of crude meanings, and they'll call me that in the hallway," unquote. Now I'm going to interject something here. You capitulated. That's your first problem. You never do that to a mob, and you never do it to a communist. You never capitulate. You never back down. You never surrender. You never give in. Because you're weak now, and you just proved it. Her name is Dixie. Then you stick with the name. You don't change the name because she's getting picked on. The mother added, or the child did, and said she added that the name Sky feels, quote, "more like me," unquote. No, it doesn't. It sounds more like a communist got a hold of your original name. That was your birth name. And they simply peer pressured you, because that's what communists do, for you to, of course, conform to them. And you gave in and you did it. Miss Remp, an employee at Burger King, said she is saving up $200 in order to cover the legal cost of her daughter changing her name. She said, quote, "She's a good kid. She's doing great at school. She doesn't give me trouble. So if changing her name makes her feel better about herself, why would I say no?" Well, you should say no if you were a responsible parent and you understood communism. But you don't. So you're giving in. That's your fault. And if you give in to changing your first name that was given to you when you were born, ladies and gentlemen, she'll give in to anything in the future. She'll be pushed around her entire life. And that, of course, will shorten her lifespan. It goes on, it says, however, commenters on social media disagreed with the mother's decision. No kidding. One said, "What? No. Teach your child resilience. If you let her change her name, what else will she want to change about herself?" Another added, quote, "I'm Dixie. I got bullied, but now I love my name," unquote. Miss Remp's daughter is not the only person to have moved away from the name Dixie. In 2020, at the height of the Black Lives Matter protests, here you go, American country band the Dixie Chicks changed their name to The Chicks to, quote, "meet this moment," unquote, as they received criticism over their name. Dixie State University officially changed its name to Utah Tech University in March of 2022. And they're retarded also. You know who else is retarded? Black Sabbath. I brought this up a long time ago, even back then. Black Sabbath, the band, changed their name to Sabbath of Color. It's just so stupid. It's so stupid. And this again, this will tell you how I operate as a human being. Little side note here, little digression. The moment I read that online, we're changing it to Sabbath of Color to be more inclusive and blah, blah, blah. I went over to my record case where I have vinyl records. I grabbed my Black Sabbath records, of which I had 3 or 4, and I sold them. I sold every single one of them for $40. Don't care. Goodbye. If you're going to be a retard, then that's the end of it. When you capitulate and when you give in to the mob, you become the mob. You tolerate that kind of behavior, which means you're tolerating your own destruction. As far as the Dixie Chicks are concerned, no one cared because no one cared about them to begin with. They were irrelevant in 2020 anyway. Were they even a band anymore? Did they even make music? Did anybody care? We're changing it to the Chicks to meet this moment. It's embarrassing. No one cares. This right here again is the weak-minded state of affairs of how communism makes little inroads like that. They just pick on people all the time until again they bend and they break. But that breaking occurs in, again, typically one of two fashions. You either give in and you conform to what it is that the mob wants you to do, or you kill yourself. That's the giving in. That's the giving in side. The not giving in side, you look them in the face, you tell them to go to hell, and you go about your business. Or you leave the poisonous environment, you teach yourself, and you become ungovernable. When the government says jump, you don't say how high, you say make me. When somebody says, well, you need to do this, and I can't believe you're not doing this, and they make fun of you, you say go to hell. Everybody remembers the line in Star Wars. The first one, and then it was said again throughout, if I'm not mistaken, that the Force is strong on the weak-minded. In this particular case, again, the Force is evil. That's the Force that's being used. And yes, it is strong on the weak-minded. They will give in, even to their own detriment, even to the tune of at least $200 to change their name that they've had their whole life. just because a group of kids at school push them around. And it's the administration, I should add, that is allowing this to happen. They're the ones, again, that are probably even encouraging the name change. Well, you shouldn't have that name. It's racist and offensive. No, it isn't. It's furthest from. The business of no consequences for those who are really guilty within any environment, whether, again, it be a working environment or certainly in this case a school environment, has always been a part of the plan for communists when it comes to, again, American K-12 education and these institutions. It's designed to teach them that there won't be consequences so that they end up failing later in life. It again is purposeful and designed self-destruction and demoralization. Always being done on purpose. Always being done to mislead these people. And of course, it's also being done to train individuals to conform no matter what. Do what you're told. Regardless of what you're told, always do it. If it comes from a boss, an elder, a superior, etc., then you need to make sure and do it. Don't ask any questions, or else, again, there will be consequences for you asking questions, because we don't want to be self-exposed. Now, again, along the same vein here, I came across this article that was written back in the winter of 2023, 2 years ago, and it was, the website is nationalaffairs.com. This was number 65 in the fall of 2025, but again, this particular article was from the winter of 2023. It was titled The Abolition of School Discipline, written by a Danielle Buck. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom because, of course, this is a subject that I've brought up many times. But here toward the end, they bring up very specifically the so-called unintended consequences. I would go so far as to say they are fully intended. They're not unintended. There are always consequences to this level of stupidity, and this is just a taste. It says the following, quote, "States and localities across the country are still grappling with the fallout from police and school discipline reform. As rates of violent crime and misbehavior in schools remains elevated, police departments are struggling to retain and recruit officers while schools in many districts are facing severe teacher shortages. Investigations into the causes of teacher exoduses in prior years, including a poll from the Policy Exchange, found that over 70% of teachers identified student behavior as a major cause. Data on the current teacher flight are harder to come by, but a poll from the National Education Association found that 90% of teachers say burnout is a serious concern. 76% identify student behavior as a driver of it. Local reporting in states like California confirms that many teachers are citing student behavior as a major reason behind their decision to quit the profession. Here's the hook, and this is my comment. It's not just that. It's the follow-up and the lack of the follow-up from their coworkers and administration and those who are responsible for holding students accountable for their behavior. They are the problem, because they're failing to hold these students accountable. They're giving minority students endless chances. They're cracking down on the behavior of whites harder than they are minority students, assuming again that Black, Hispanic, and Asian are the minority in the vast majority of schools, which they tend to be, certainly based on the geographic location and depending on that. But even so, that's the real problem. If you just used an example among certain students and said, well, they're not here anymore, as I've said before numerous times, and then you get rid of them, and then you tell everybody why they are no longer there, well, if you hold everybody accountable appropriately and you start kicking out students, you're not going to have many left. You'll have the ones, again, that go along to get along and sort of conform to the system and do whatever, but the rest, again, certainly the troublemakers, so to speak, the real ones, the criminals, they won't be there anymore. It goes on here. It says, conservatives nationwide are winning school board seats and governors' mansions by combating critical race theory and gender ideology in the classroom. Restoring order to schools could prove to be a similarly popular message. Any mayor, school board member, or governor who promised safety in schools could attract an influx of parents to the voting booth. When their children are on the ballot, people vote. Well, that goes both ways. Some people love misery, and some people love a lack of accountability, and they love illegality, and they love risk, and they love making excuses for all of those things. And those people vote too. And they can vote in the slight majority or vast majority to a great extent, again, depending on the geographic location. Some people love to rule over the ashes, and they have no problem going down with a ship whatsoever. It goes on, it says, most of my own students didn't fear violence, but they dreaded constant disruption. Few were going to get punched in the face, but many would lose their temper after yet another paper airplane, another interruption, another cruel comment. They wanted to learn, and their inability to do so frustrated them most. Over the years, I had many students thank me for creating a silent workspace amid a chaotic school day. It's easy to sloganeer against suspensions and expulsions when you've never had 30 sets of eyes begging you to do something, when you know you are powerless to respond to an outburst. Quote, it just grinds you down, unquote, reads the title of the Policy Exchange report. For teachers, it means extra paperwork and emails, nagging questions over whether a response was effective, and looming anxiety about what sort of chaos the next day will bring. And then, of course, having a troublemaking student return, the moment that, again, you make a particular discipline referral or a complaint, which means you're just repeating the behavior. There's no real consequence. Last paragraph says, kicking a student out of school may seem unkind, but no child has a right to interfere with another child's education. When we abolish discipline, we're not abolishing consequences. We're merely asking other students and staff to bear them. How society ought to manage disruptive children is an unendingly complex and ethically fraught question. But we owe it to our future generations to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to learn, unquote. I would agree with all of that. They have such an opportunity to learn as an individual that they have the opportunity and the right to leave the environment also. Don't expect, again, a government entity to change consistently or change dramatically for the better, certainly in a short period of time or a long period of time. Typically doesn't happen, which means you have to take the control back and be ungovernable. That's how you ensure the safety of a child. That's, again, how you ensure the safety of even yourself within the profession. This is why the turnover rate in the education business is as high as it is. This is why teacher education departments are folding. No one wants to enter the profession, and the only ones that do are politically motivated to do so. Case in point, this particular article from the local rag outlet in the town where I live was just sent to me pertaining to, again, Miami University students and even faculty. Basically, sort of in summary, you have university professors and college students protesting and marching around and signing a petition signed by, it says, 388 members of the Miami community, directly asking them to reject loyalty oaths, to, quote, defend academic freedom and institutional integrity, and, quote, visibly protect the safety and belonging of our communities on campus, unquote. As you would expect, it's a bunch of left-wing gobbledygook, but the reason that it is because they're refusing to sign President Trump's compact that basically says, we're going to be academically focused, stay away from politics, etc., etc. And then what do? They double down, of course, on their politics. They double down by saying, well, we need academic freedom times 1,000. We need to be able to talk about whatever we want to talk about. Therein lies the problem, because then you're just having conversations about nothing. You're having conversations about your opinion, your political ideologies. There's no instruction. But remember, if the shoe's on the other foot, and say, for example, you're in a history class and you say the Holocaust didn't happen, it's fake. Here are all the books that have been published that prove that it's fake. Here's all of the documentaries, specifically a very good one, 2.5 hours long. Highly recommend to anybody watch it. Part 8 of Europa: The Last Battle. Watch this. That's when they'll show their cards. That right there is, again, where you can call their bluff. Because then they'll start screaming and shouting and saying, "Oh, you're not allowed to say that. You're a racist and a Nazi." And before you know it, just like that, you've caught them. You've caught them. You've caught them backtracking and being hypocritical based on their so-called petition or compact that they want to exist. Academic freedom already does exist in these environments. These individuals already have the First Amendment to the Constitution. It just boils down to whether or not you're a good instructor or not. But it's too Bolshevistic. All these environments are far too Bolshevistic. And now, of course, this is a perfect example of the left eating its own tail. Because a communist always eats its own tail. Communists kill themselves all of the time and each other. It's literally what they do. It's what they've always done from a historic perspective. If you don't do the thing we want, we're going to kill you. And then they do it. That's why they can't have anything nice. That's why they don't have nice things. Is because they're too busy eating each other. Now you have leftists eating a left-wing administration. They do it constantly. They infight all of the time. They even said this is hilarious. This was from a Kaylee Barcroft, the president for the Miami chapter of the Ohio Student Association, which means it's a stupid club, said the petition is also meant to address unique impacts on Miami from the passage of Ohio Senate Bill 1 and censorship on campus as a whole. Quote, Senate Bill 1 severely limits topics that are allowed to be discussed in college classrooms and how professors are allowed to teach certain topics, but it also outright bans DEI, good, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives on campus, and does not allow universities to show support for marginalized groups in certain ways, Barcroft said. She pointed to an example of SB 1 already taking effect on campus, including the removal of flags in the Armstrong Student Center showing support for LGBTQ+ communities and people of color. Well, good. Again, when you wave flags like that, and you do that, as I said earlier, when the shoe is on the other foot and you wave a different flag, they lose their minds, showing again the fragility of their hypocrisy and their inconsistency. It's blatant, and it's razor thin. But they're crazy people. So what do you expect? Again, they don't even see the hypocrisy in the thing that they're advocating for. It's exhausting. I mean, again, you talk about brainwashed. This is it. And I'll say this too, and this is important. This is exactly why you've always heard me advocate for online learning and learning at home on your own. Why? Because the solitude that comes with that means that that individual who learns that way and actually chooses to learn that way. People would say, well, not everybody learns that way, Sean. I would say, well, stop limiting your potential. You don't know that because you've never done it before. Well, my kid did it for a little while and it didn't work. Well, maybe they didn't do it long enough. Maybe somebody again in their late teens, early 20s who's college age gave it the old college try, but didn't try long enough. They just did it again for a semester or even for 9 weeks or whatever, for a month. And then they gave up. And they were like, I don't like this. That's because they don't like thinking. That's because they don't like, again, thinking as an individual because they've been trained not to. In an online environment, it's you, direct instruction, and then investigation and inquiry on your own part, on your own initiative. I loved learning online. I loved it because I didn't have to put up with any of this nonsense, like what they're talking about. petitions, marching, what flag is going to be waved, what useless conversation is going to take place in a brick and mortar classroom, all of that stuff. It's all gone in an online environment. You're not having discussions, quote unquote, not real discussions. You're fulfilling, in a lot of these universities, you're fulfilling online, basically, quotas. A professor, for example, in an online university in a specified class will propose a particular question that they want the students to interact with and provide an answer to, and then even highlight particular references that justify or back up, so they say, although you don't need somebody else's opinion to justify your own, just, bring the facts. But either way, when they do that, in an online discussion, it becomes a requirement then, and even a graded requirement, and an expectation that other students, again, will respond to those students and respond to the question first, and then you have to seek out other students in that chat group online to then ask them a question and then respond. A lot of it is superficial and it's not genuine, which is fine, because what goes on in a brick and mortar classroom isn't either. The only difference is there's silence in an online environment, as opposed to looking at somebody with blue and pink and purple hair scream at the top of their lungs that men can get pregnant. That's why, by default, in an online environment, that individual who learns that way and chooses to be instructed that way is hands down going to be more intelligent than somebody who's dishing out copious amounts of tuition money to attend a nutbag environment like Miami University or any other brick and mortar college. Again, it is the difference between those who are awake and those who are asleep. I drive around Miami's campus very infrequently, but when I do, I get sad because I see the faces of these people walking in the rain, walking in the snow, walking in the cold, yelling at themselves that their hair doesn't look right because the weather isn't accommodating their hairstyle. And they're walking to a college classroom. For what? To do what? It's sad, because they don't know that the Great Awakening is happening, that people are walking away on purpose. They're finding other ways to get done the thing that they think that they want to get done. But they're still trapped in the matrix, which means they're not awake. You can drive around and see these people. You can physically see them on a day in and day out basis. It's amazing to me. I'm going to end with a little piece of audio here. It's in the voice of Alan Watts. This right here is exactly what I'm talking about. This, again, I think ties in a lot of this. This is the difference between the awake and the asleep, and how when one wakes up, everything is different, and there's no going back to sleep. But again, you unfortunately, and we unfortunately, have to see the asleep still. And we have to witness them, and we have to listen to them, and we have to see them, but we can at least see them and know that there's something missing there, which is too bad. It's a completely different state of consciousness. So with this said, give this a listen, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for listening as always, and I'll catch you on Friday. Peace.
There's a peculiar suffering that comes with awareness, a kind of exile that happens not when you leave the world, but when you begin to truly see it. You sit down to watch a movie everyone loves, and within minutes, you're analyzing the manipulation tactics, the propaganda, the tired formulas. You're at a party, and instead of enjoying the moment, you're observing the social performances, the masks, the desperate need for validation in every conversation. You used to enjoy these things. You remember when a movie was just a movie, when small talk was comfortable, when you could lose yourself in the moment without your mind dissecting every layer of what was really happening. But something changed. You woke up, and now you can't go back to sleep. Today, we're exploring one of the most painful consequences of consciousness, the loss of simple pleasures. This isn't about being cynical or superior. This is about the genuine grief that comes when awareness strips away the capacity for innocent enjoyment. Alan Watts once observed that the price of consciousness is the loss of unconsciousness. And with that loss comes something most people never talk about. You can't enjoy things the way you used to. Think about a child watching a magic show. Their eyes light up with wonder. They believe in the magic completely. Now think about you watching that same show. You see the sleight of hand. You recognize the misdirection. You appreciate the skill, perhaps, but the magic is gone. This is what happens to conscious people with almost everything in life. You can't watch the news without seeing the agenda behind every story. You can't scroll social media without recognizing the performance, the carefully curated highlights, the desperate need for external validation. You can't attend social gatherings without feeling the weight of all the unspoken truths, the polite lies, the surface-level connections that everyone pretends are meaningful. The veil has been lifted, and you're left standing in a world where everyone else still sees magic, while you only see the mechanics. This creates a profound loneliness. Not the loneliness of being physically alone, but the loneliness of being awake in a world that's sleeping. You're surrounded by people, yet you feel completely isolated because you're experiencing a different reality than everyone around you. They're immersed in the movie. You're watching both the movie and the audience watching the movie.
Thank you for listening to American Education FM. Make sure and check out AmericanEducationFM.com for more information. Take care and God bless.